everyone. Welcome to Regional Property Unplugged for another 11 a.m. Tuesday session. How is everyone? We have a special guest today. We've got Justin Daniel from WealthFit. So this is going to have a bit of a session. How are we going, Mark?
Yeah, I'm well, Shona.
That's good.
Welcome, JD.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries at all.
Pretty big gig to get onto this show, mate.
Yeah.
I did hear that. I did hear that. So I'll try to bring a little bit of value.
Yeah,
Nice.
The check's in the mail. It's like Ellen almost. It's that level now. Like it's getting pretty big. So
yeah,
just look under your chair. Look under your chair for the prize.
All right. Awesome.
Funny.
So how was the weekend, Mark? We'll just do a quick overview of opens. This is our last open on the weekend.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got two tonight still. I had one last night. We had a really busy weekend. Again, we met 50 buyers on Saturday. Groups of buyers at about 5 or 6 different opens. So we launched three new ones, and it was plenty of offers coming in, which is great. One's getting wrapped up this afternoon. But yeah, look, and the good thing is there's still positivity from the last few days, even though with the announcements on the weekend, there's still plenty of positivity in the market. And yeah, I think we're Sunraysia, we're pretty resilient with what's going on. Yep, we're wearing masks. We're restricted. We're restricted again, but I think the economy is still rolling along nice and fast, which is good.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, that's good to hear. So let's continue, because we're actually going to make this a little bit short and sweet today, so that we don't hold people up too much. But so Justin's actually from WealthFit, so he's going to give us some financial planning advice. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, I guess we might as well ask Juzzy where how long he's been in the game and why he did it and all that sort of stuff. That's what he wanted to talk about.
All right. So quickly, I'll briefly run through that. So I've been an advisor for about 15 years now. Did my 10 years at ANZ in the banks. Really good grounding to learn what to do. And I moved back to Mildura around 4 years ago and started a local YBR business, which morphed into my business today, which is what's called WealthFit. Why do I do it? Yeah, it's just something I was always keen on when I was a little bit younger, with the money and the share market and things like that.
Good with numbers, aren't you?
Pretty decent with numbers. And I used to be a personal trainer, so it sort of kind of links back. People find that weird, that sort of connection, but it all comes down to sort of helping people, becoming an expert in the subject and kind of sharing that knowledge, which is kind of what I enjoy. It's not a bad way to spend your day. Yeah,
that's good, mate. I think the reason we sort of got you on is obviously why we do this is to try and educate people on where to start if they're thinking of selling, and where to start if they're thinking of buying. And it's a big decision for a lot of people. It's you're playing with a lot of money, and I guess it's important that people understand what the steps are to not just investing in real estate but other avenues, right? And making sure they're doing the right thing. So if I was to come into you, into your office and say, all right, Justin, I need some advice. I've got some money put away. I'm thinking of doing something. What's the first step? What would you sort of then take me through?
Yeah, look, we probably try to follow like a bit of a 5-step process. There's probably 5 things to kind of keep it fairly general and basic that we talk to people about. And the first one is really your goals. Like, you really need to ascertain your goals. And I know we talk about it a lot. What are your goals, things like that. But a lot of people don't really come in with a clear plan at all. They hear a bit of advice from their friend or their mate or their mum or their dad, they should buy a property or they should get in the share market or whatever. But they don't know why. And I'm a big fan of, maybe that personal training background. If you want to get results, you really need to think about what your goals are. You need to lose this, or you need to lose that, or you want to do this or that. So for me, the ascertaining of your goals is the most important thing. You really need a clear plan of what that is. And that could be to retire early. That could be to build wealth because you don't really enjoy work or whatever. There could be a number of reasons, but you need a clear goal. And that's something that's the first thing that I sort of bring up with people.
Everyone talks about that financial freedom, don't they? It's like it's a term that, I just want to be financially free. How do you do that? And obviously that comes down to setting those goals and making a plan, because it doesn't happen overnight, right?
No, it doesn't. And then, yeah, that's exactly right. A lot of people talk about it, but the thing I see probably a lot is in action, where people, they have the right intentions and they want to do it, but sometimes it's hard to pull that trigger, and that sort of leads into, you know, why you're doing these things, is trying to give people the knowledge, the skills, and ultimately the confidence to do it.
Yeah,
because it's actually the fear of making a mistake, right? That stops a lot of people. It's like, which way do I actually go? We're overwhelmed for choice. You know, I'll go down this path. It's how do I stop stuffing up? So it's really important to come to someone like you to go, okay, this is the direction. This is your customized circumstance. You know what I mean? It's like everyone's different. Their paths are different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And like you said, there's so much information out there, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But you know, I take it on the flip side of that. You can sort of, there's a lot of information out there for free, for like things like today. So the information's out there. You just got to work through it, talk to the right people, and sort of go from there.
Yeah.
You're finding that there's a lot of trepidation with people. You know, that uncertainty. Obviously, the world at the moment is a little bit uncertain. Some people don't even know whether they're going to have a job in 6 months. You know, so therefore investing is a bit of a fearful thing, you know, even whether it's buying a car or investing, you know. Is there a bit of that you're finding that your clients are sort of saying, well, what do I do? What's the next step? You find you come up with a big, like a really foolproof plan to make sure that they're doing the right thing and they're not, you know, putting themselves under pressure?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I obviously worked for the GFC, and it was one of the most probably career-defining things for me, because the things that I saw and how clients reacted during the GFC was huge for me. It was a really good learning curve for me, like 2008, 2009. This crash, as we like to, I guess we can call it, the financial side of things. I've seen most people be fairly confident. Most people, I had more calls about people ringing me about how do I buy into the share market and things like that than sell and panic and things like that.
Wow.
I'd imagine it's got a lot to do with the JobKeeper program. I actually felt from that day on, when that came out, people felt better and they felt confident. So I think that, you know, that program has been completely different from what it was in the GFC. So again, I don't see a huge cross section of society. Of course, I obviously only see my clients and prospective clients. But it's actually, there's a weird confidence. It's not as bad out there as it sounds. And the good thing about the property market, the share market obviously is volatile and it goes up and down and sideways and things like that. You don't see that kind of volatility in the property market. So sometimes that isn't a bad thing. If people do have any type of sort of trepidations or fears from investing, the property market makes it a little bit easier, because you don't get your house valued daily like we do in the market. So for some people, that may be the best way to go, and everyone's different. So,
yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's horses for courses, isn't it? Building a budget, you know, obviously, you know, some people are going to be at different levels. I think you've spoken to me before also about at different times you are in your life. You know, I'm only 28, going on 40.
Me too, then.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, so obviously my plan would be different to someone that's 25, to different to someone that's 50. But, you know, how do you build a budget for all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So it doesn't matter what age you're at, you still need a budget. You still need to work out what is going in each week. And look, we are in a bit of a very weird time, but let's just consider normal times. You do need to know what is going on in your household. And a lot of people don't. I think there's a number that 70% or 80% of people don't even have a budget, don't even know what they spend each week. So I wouldn't be recommending you go out and buy investment property or go into the share market or anything like that until you had that budget sorted. It's very basic, it's boring, etc., but it's one of the most important things you need to do, because you need to make sure that if things do go wrong, that you've got that backup, that cash to sort of look after yourself in the event that things do go wrong in some way.
It seems like a really simple thing, isn't it? Like we just, you know, it's like a budget, it's simple, but I mean, my hands up, like up until 3 years ago, I never did it. It's, you know, nothing to be ashamed of, but it's, you know, like if people need help to understand and to get into that momentum, can they come to you to do that?
Yeah, that's a part of what we do. The best site I've seen is actually a government site. It's called Money Smart. So Money Smart's a ASIC web. It's on the ASIC website. I think if you sort of Google that, that's a good one to go through, because it actually prompts you and gives you all the things, because it's certain things you don't forget, because rates come in yearly or quarterly. You might not factor those in. You factor in your Netflix, you factor in your food and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But you need a true representation of your year to see what cash you do have to invest down the track. But I highly recommend the Money Smart website.
Cool.
Very good. So you obviously, if someone chooses to then invest into real estate or elsewhere, and they want to diversify or do one or both or all, whatever you recommend,
yep.
You know, education's an important part of it. You know, understanding your market. Yeah.
Yep. It's one of the things I think and that's kind of free. It doesn't cost you much to make phone calls to people like yourself, to people like Shona, talk about the property they're going to invest in. It's the same thing as if we look at a share market investment. We need to educate ourselves on it. There's so much information out there. I think before you make calls to people like yourself, you need to sort of think about where you want to invest, how much it's going to cost, things like that, and just keep an eye on the actual local papers that come out weekly, because you need to know if there's a bargain there, if there's not, and it's all free and it's easy. But I wouldn't recommend you go into any type of investment without some type of background. You've got to know what you're investing in.
Yeah.
And property seems easy, but as you would know, there's a lot of nuances with it. There's certain areas you want to be in, there's certain areas you might not want to be in, depending what your goals are, etc.
And the other thing is, you've got new property versus established properties, you know, versus developing, depreciation.
There's residential, there's commercial.
Yeah. So there's all different, I guess, types of things. And, you know, sometimes it is hard to know where to start with, you know, what to do, whether you go and build something or just buy something. And it's, I guess, again, throwing it back to you, you obviously need to speak to someone like yourself and make a plan and obviously know that you're getting
back to the
right
ascertaining of your goals. But yeah, the basic thing to do on educating yourself is, if you're interested in buying something in Mildura, you're interested in buying something in Adelaide, you need to get onto those websites. You need to get onto the local property thing. You need to know what is going on.
Yeah. But again, they can come into you, sit down and make a plan, whether it's over a few months or 6 months or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. You're not going to come into my office and the next day go make an offer on a property. There's a whole process that goes through it, starting from the goals, down to your budget, down to educating yourself, and then getting into local experts, whether it be a broker, whether it be yourself, things like that. Because obviously you need to know your borrowing power. There's a few things in that as well.
I see a lot of buyers every weekend, maybe 50%. You know, obviously when someone shows interest in a home, one of the first questions I ask is, you know, how are you going with your finance? Have you spoken to a bank? Have you spoken to a broker? Surprises me how many people haven't done that. They actually come, and I understand that some people, they start the process with having a look, but they're looking at stuff they don't even know whether they could buy. Yeah. Sometimes they're getting their hopes up that they're looking at properties that are way out of their budget. You know,
so a lot of people use the online calculators, and they will tell you can borrow this, you can borrow that, but there's a lot of little asterisks on it that you need to read. So I highly recommend you go speak to your bank, go speak to your broker, etc. Because there's no point in looking at a $500,000 house if your budget's $300,000. It's just not going to work.
Well, it hurts because buyers then see something they really, really want that they can't have. So it's like, you know, going and seeing a $400
it's a really important step
that you can't buy.
That's right. It's an important step in the process to really get a good idea of what you can and can't borrow. Because you know, maybe it's not going to work now, but then you go, right, I'll go back to my goals, and they'll probably leave you with some information. You go, right, in 6 months, if you saved up another 5 or 10K or whatever that number is, you can then work through and go, right, I've got to put this on the back burner for 12 months. I can still keep reading and keep educating myself, but I need that extra 5K, that extra 10K, etc.
Yeah. So I guess those, maybe we can touch base on, I actually am hearing that people are, because of, you know, the situation we're in now, people are taking out their super because they can and using that as a house deposit, but the banks are necessarily not, they're not in with that. Can you just expand on that?
So, and to be clear, I don't lend money. There's, I'm not a broker, but it's pretty clear that the banks are chasing what we call genuine savings. They want to see, and they can see through your bank accounts, what is genuine savings and what's been plonked there by the super, especially if they pull out your bank statement and actually says Australian Super dropped in $5,000, you're not showing them that you can save and that you can afford it. And the banks have every law under the sun around what's called responsible lending and things like that. So look, there might be some other ways which we touched on before we were on around getting the money maybe to someone else who can put it in your account. But ultimately, if you're that desperate, you need to get money out of your super fund, we might want to have a really good discussion around if this is the right time to do it, or it's 12 months down the track. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying maybe we need to plot it out a bit more. It might take yourself 6 to 12 months to get to actually get in the game.
Because you can actually renting a home is also proof of saving, isn't it? Because you're actually paying $350 a week into banks will actually consider that as proof of saving. Yeah. But
again, this goes back to the point of before. Work out how much you can afford, and that's done through a broker. It's done through your bank, etc. And I highly recommend you shop around. So don't just go to Westpac because you've been to Westpac for 100 years. Don't just go to ANZ because it's your only bank. They've all got slightly different lending policies. But I think that's where a broker who's got a suite of products is the best thing for you. Yeah,
there's a couple of really good brokers in town too that you can talk to, and it's often my advice. You know, for different people in different industries or different jobs, there's often little loans that work for them. You know, there's police credit union if you're a police officer. There's certain things that suit different people, and I think if a bank sometimes is a little bit limited with what their products are, that's why I like people to speak to brokers as well.
And brokers don't charge. They get a commission once the loan's drawn, but they don't generally charge to have a chat.
Yeah. Proof it.
Yeah, so this is probably the second last step of how when I walk through these sort of things with people is like a risk management. So let's assume that we've got the property, we're there, we need to insure it. So obviously landlord insurance and things like that, and then one day you might get on a general insurance guy to have a good chat about what that actually does. But the sort of the stuff that I focus more on is around the life insurance side of things, the disability insurance, income protection, etc. And I've said this to many people over my journey, is that we're always very quick to insure our cars, we're very quick to insure our houses, but we're not quick to insure our biggest asset, which is our ability to earn income. So if I'm going to commit to a loan to an investment property, whatever it is, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, I want to know that I don't need to force sell that. So in the event that the renters don't pay for some reason, or it's empty for 6 months and I lose my job, or I've injured myself and I can't work, what's going to happen? There's going to be a forced sale. And that's when you can lose money. So you want to make sure that you have your insurances in place, and most of these are deductible anyway. So it's probably forgotten because we're excited about the house, or we're going to get the rent, so we're thinking about the money that's going to come in, but we need to think about the worst case scenario stuff. And I know it sounds morbid and it's not an exciting thing to talk about, but I think it's one of the most important things.
Do you find that a lot of people come in and they just don't consider that? Like a lot of your clients come in and just, I've never actually really considered that that's an option.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The self-employed market's probably a little bit better because they don't have the sick leave and all that type of stuff. They're probably thinking about it a little bit more. A lot of people think they got it in their super fund, which could be true. Highly likely it's not true, or it's only for a couple of years, where the stuff that we put in place is to retirement. And I think it's like anything. It's like when I was trying to sell a house, I didn't know what to do or how it works. This is why I needed people like yourself. It can be a little bit daunting as well, because like, where do I start? But that's where advisors work. Or if you're super fund, you can always call your fund and they might be able to help. But you've got to go through it. It's just a no-brainer for me.
So if I wanted income protection insurance, I could bring my super information, my superannuation fund statement into you, and you could have a look at that, or then take out another policy.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you can mix and match. You can use them both. You can use some in super, some on the outside. If it's not, and sometimes the statements are very hard to read. It's not very clear, so I can help you work through that. And if we can't work it out, we just give the fund a call and go through there. But most of the time, if anyone takes anything out of this, sometimes your fund isn't providing what you think it is. It's covering you for $500 a month, which is not what we need. If we go back to our budget, we need $4,000 a month. We need $5,000 a month. Or it might only last for a couple of years. There's there's many things, and that's what a good advisor or a super fund will help you with.
Yeah, I reckon Shona will post Jazzy's details on the on this post when we do it. So if anyone has, particularly an email address, just if anyone has any questions with those things, which obviously are pretty critical, just to shoot an email through and just to start that process, because it's you know, you'd be at a loss if something happened, and then obviously the income that you're earning, it's not there anymore. So obviously the last point, Jazzy, is you know, this isn't a short-term thing, right? So someone's coming in hoping for a real quick windfall, then maybe they should go and bet on the horses.
The property market, it just, in my experience, it doesn't happen unless you've got some farming land that turns into some type of residential development land or something like that. You might,
which is luck.
Yeah, which is luck. I talk to people about, because it's kind of costly to get in with, you know, your stamp duties and things like that. You've really got to have at least a 10-year window, ideally 15, 20. Not many people come to me at 60 and say, I want to flip a property in 3 years. So it comes back to those goals and things like that. But I can't emphasize enough how this is a long game. Now, I do talk to people about shares as well. But sometimes people get a tip, they do well, they sell out within 3 months, 6 months. But it happens occasionally. But a property is not something you're going to flip. It's just, in my mind, it's a long-term game. The idea is to build equity. A lot of lenders will tell you to just not pay the debt down, just to have interest only, etc. That's not how I do it. If you can afford to pay it down, pay it down. The aim of the game is to build equity, and once we build that equity, you can go, as a part of your plan, you go to the next one. Whether you buy another one, you might buy a commercial property, you might then diversify into shares. Whatever that is, you need to pay those loans down, especially when rates are low, because I've got a lot of retiree clients that are pretty annoyed with the way the interest rates are. But I've got a lot of clients that are my age and lower that are wrapped because rates are cheap. We've never seen this before. So this is the time to get ahead.
Yeah. Great advice. This has been awesome. There's a few takeaways for me, definitely. So we'll definitely put your details up, JD, so that, you know, people can come and see. This is a great time to get things in order and really prepare for the future, because, you know, it can be unknown, as we know. So this has been cool, really cool.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, JD.
Thank you.
Like I said, hopefully anyone that wants to get in touch, they'll do so. And I think this has been good, just to, you know, like you said, Shona, you know, there is some things, like I've always heard, just pay your interest with investment properties. And so it's those little tips and tricks that I think most people that are wanting to invest, they want to know what those little tips, you know, what's the best way, how am I going to get ahead quicker? If I'm talking 20 years and I want to retire, how do I get there and be really comfortable? I remember when my mum and dad were close to retiring, they were almost like, oh my God, we've just got to keep putting money into our super. And I remember it vividly. And they had a plan, they had a target that they were going to reach. And you know, they're doing it and doing it well. So, which is awesome, retiring beautifully. And that's what you want. I see a lot of people that I feel, you know, particularly older clients that just aren't in a position to sell because they've got nowhere else to go, or you know, and it's tough. So you want to make sure you're set up. You want to make sure you're, you know, in a really good position moving forward. But it starts with advice, and it starts with a plan, by the sounds of it.
And don't wait till you grow up. I was always thinking, I'll just do it later when I grow up, you know, and I still haven't grown up, you know. But it's not something to look into when you're hitting 50, 60. It's like, you know, let's do it now.
It all starts at 40, I've heard. So that's what I'm doing.
Hopefully.
Oh, just scraped in then.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Got a few months ago.
Yeah, well, whatever. All right, so thank you again, JD. And next week we're going to pop on and we're going to talk about the ultimate session to selling in spring, because it's coming up. Like, when we're already far out, 1 week into August, so it's going to come so fast. So check out next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And thanks again. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have an amazing week. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Jazzy.
Cheers.
Thanks.
See ya.
See ya.